Welcome to the show, Mind Blend. I'm your host, Karen Chong, and I'll be diving into the minds of incredible people, each an expert in their very own way. Together, we'll uncover insights and share ideas so you can be inspired and empowered to navigate your own unique journey in life. Ready to get curious and discover what's possible? Let's blend. Today, I'll be mind blending with Spencer Plaut. So Spencer is a very seasoned food services professional, pun intended, and he's also bringing his culinary arts into the corporate environment. Hi, Spencer. Welcome to the Mind Blend episode.
Karen, nice to meet you, and thanks for having me.
So, listeners, you may be very curious now. What do you mean bringing culinary arts into corporate environment? So, Spencer, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Yeah, I started working in kitchens when I was a teenager in high school. I was instead of going to class on Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout high school, I actually worked in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got into cooking. I love the competition. I love the level of seriousness. I love the attention to detail. It's something I gravitated towards like very quickly. And I went to culinary school in upstate New York. I worked in kitchens in New York and San Francisco in my 20s. And then in my 30s, I translated all that into the corporate environment. So worked for a few different tech companies the last decade: Yahoo, Verizon, Oath, which was Verizon Media, Square, and now OpenAI. And out here on the West Coast, food's really popular in the corporate environment. And a lot of these companies and offices are providing food as an amenity to attract and retain talent. So it's been quite a journey, and I've never been happier before than where I'm at today.
That's very interesting. Normally, you don't hear tech names associated with food industry. And that's why I wanted to talk to you because you have such a unique journey.
Prior to culinary school, I worked in restaurants. So I was formally trained in restaurants before culinary school. I was formally trained in culinary school. At the time, all of our instructors in culinary school at the CIA were all like old school French chefs, which was very demanding and a lot of fun. And then the rule that I had when I was young was I only want to work for a restaurant if it's reputable, if it's great, and if it has a classically French trained chef. So yeah, I professionally trained in kitchens for about 15 years.
Wow, that is an entirely different world. I love food too. I'm also from the West Coast. But today, the reason I wanted to talk to Spencer is because a while ago, I wrote an article about project planning. And I think I said something about how the lack of planning is detrimental to any project success. And someone left a comment and said, oh, planning is like the mise en place for chefs. So that was the first time I heard that word. And then later on, somebody recommended a book to me. It talks about how mise en place can be applied to professional settings. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, from a very textbook point of view, mise en place, if anyone's not already familiar, it's a French kitchen phrase that means putting in place or gathering. So it refers to the discipline and organization a good chef exhibits in the kitchen. So what does mise en place mean to you, Spencer?
It means things in place. And you can look at it like a few different ways. The way I look at it is you have to have everything in front of you. When you're working in a restaurant, everything needs to be right in front of you. You need to have the right amount, right? You can't have too much. You can't have too little. But it needs to be like very strategically located, so it's right at your fingertips. Because in the restaurant, everything is about like quality and speed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you assembling the right ingredients at the right time? Putting together the right technique. You can't put together the right technique without everything in place so that you can get food out like beautifully and fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way I approach mise en place is having the right amount of things right in front of you, not too many, not too little.
Mm-hmm.
Be available so that you can be very quick to execute, and also prepared right. If
Mm.
you don't have, if your mise en place isn't prepared right, you're probably not going to have the end result that you want. So it's essentially everything. Um, you can have your mise en place all laid out in front of you, uh, but maybe something was missed. Maybe the technique wasn't used
Ah,
correctly.
I got it. So instead of
Preparing each item.
sliced, if something is shredded, for example.
Yeah, or
Mm.
your vinaigrette isn't seasoned right.
Okay.
Or if you're cooking short ribs, I mean, most restaurants, a lot of things are done ahead of time. They're
Hmm.
done like the day prior, right? Let's use like a braised short rib as an example. Braised short rib will come in on a Monday. Short rib could come in on a Monday, get seasoned and
Hmm.
marinated,
Hmm.
braised on a Tuesday, and served on a Wednesday.
Hmm.
And with that braised short rib, maybe you have a sauce, maybe you have some vegetables,
Hmm.
but everything's right in front of you at your fingertips, just waiting for you to come to the restaurant and order the braised short rib.
Hmm.
So the way we approach mise en place as chefs is everything laid out for that cook or that chef to execute super quickly, but is everything also done right? Was the braised short rib can be in the right place, but maybe it wasn't braised long enough. Maybe the
Hmm.
sauce was strained and it's not clear,
Hmm.
right? So the way we approach mise en place is having everything in front of you that's easily accessible so that you can execute super quickly,
Hmm.
but also like taking the time to be precise and paying attention to detail so that everything is done correctly.
So it's almost like in the steps even when before it gets to your part, because when you're seasoning the vinaigrette, you need the seasoning in front of you. When you're straining the sauce, it's been cooked already, but you need to be seasoned right. So there's like a lot of different steps before it even gets to you.
Correct. And the way you like the chefs will approach it also in the kitchen is there too much mise en place?
Mm.
Right? Like,
How does that look like? Too much mise en place?
well, sometimes the best ingredient is the one that's left out.
Mm.
And you add too many things and sometimes simple is better, right?
Mm.
And also like the way you like distributing mise en place is super important as well.
Mm.
So it's kind of like an army where you have your kitchen, you have your cooks, and you evenly distribute the workload to ensure there's balance in the kitchen from a production and efficiency perspective,
Mm.
right? So if one cook mise en place contains 50 things, but the other cook mise en place contains 20 things, right? You're not going to be able to execute the food in the same amount of time
Mm.
quickly.
Mm. Yeah, that's so. These are some things that people may not think about unless they have like looked at kitchen operations. So how did you get proficient in this? Because I'm sure there's always your first day when people kind of informally or formally introduce you to the concept of mise en place. What was your first impression?
My first impression was I was really fascinated with how much thought and how much attention to detail and how little air there was to make mistakes when working in a kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
creating mise en place to set yourself up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really get that in school. So I really gravitated towards that in the kitchen.
Ah, so the there's not enough focus on this precision and attention to detail in school, and that drove you to more the culinary world. Is that right?
I'm not going to say there's not, because I think everyone catches on uh, to different things, but no,
Mm.
like at the time, I love the energy in the restaurants and I just loved how everyone truly cared. Right. And that was at a time where like being a cook and being a chef was a really attractive job.
Hmm. Was
Right.
or was it?
It
It
was
was. Okay.
more so than now. Right. The competition back in like the 90s and the early 2000s was insane. And
Hmm.
a lot of the restaurants here in San Francisco, you couldn't even get into a restaurant that you want to work at. Whereas now, it's very different,
Hmm.
and I think it's like that way globally.
Hmm.
Uh, so I really appreciated how there was a lot of competition in the restaurants and everyone was just like really dialed in and focused on their mise en place. Because at the end of the day, success and failure depends on mise en place. Is
Hmm.
have the right things in place and are they all done correctly to ensure success?
It's so much faster when you see failure in the kitchen environment. Do you see a difference between the environment, the kitchen environment in a corporate office where you are now versus before when you were in restaurant?
Yeah, it for sure. I think the corporate environment in the back of the house compared to the restaurant back of the house, it's very different for two things. Number one, you're cooking a lot more food and
Mm, yeah.
you're preparing it differently.
Hmm.
Uh, looking at restaurants and your typical corporate food service cafeteria, but it's also a different time, right?
Like it comes in waves. Because I know they're served at set times too at corporate office, but I guess the time span is longer than a restaurant.
Typical here in San Francisco, restaurants close probably earlier than cities like Chicago, LA, or New York. But it's probably a 4 to 5 hour dining period. 5 to 9, 5 to 10. Some restaurants are open late, but let's say 4 hours, and you may do, if you're busy, you may do 2 or 3 turns. A popular restaurant could do anywhere between 300 to the real popular and successful restaurants maybe do like 600 covers a night, and that's a lot. That's a lot of people, right? In the corporate environment, you can serve hundreds, if not thousands of people in a half hour, depending on the size of the company. So the way you need to approach that, like from a planning perspective, like comes down to mise en place, but it also is a lot of preparation where in restaurants, a lot of things like it could be done ahead of time, but a lot of things are cooked like a la minute or to order. In the corporate environment, you can't execute that many people that quickly. So there's a lot of, I would say the big difference is like the preparation and the programming to execute massive amounts of people at once. And you got to approach that differently because quality can't suffer,
Hmm.
right? That's not an option.
Yeah, I have heard. I have a lot of people in that industry, the industry that provides food as an incentive, and it's not easy to please. So it's a not an easy job that you're doing.
No, I think you got to love it and you do need to love to please.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, the the best people in the industry that I know um, are obsessed with attention to detail.
Hmm.
They're constantly evolving and changing and finding new ingredients,
Hmm.
new trends, and they're setting trends, right? But what I love about the industry is at the end of the day, it like food is a way to build community, make friends, and
Hmm.
please people,
Yeah.
right? It's not just about feeding them, it's about people together and giving them a really good time.
Hmm.
And we have the power to do that. And those that deeply care and obsessed over giving you a great time and a memorable experience, those are the folks that like you'll see at the global level that are super
Hmm.
successful.
So now in the position you're in, I don't know if you're involved in training, but what I wanted to ask you is if you were to teach someone to practice or to understand the concept of mise en place and applying it, how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, good question. So it starts with programming
Hmm.
and having the right menu
Mm.
for the right audience
Okay.
based on the right time, right? So the things that we think of are who are we cooking for? What age group
Hmm.
relative, are they in? Where are they coming from? What do we think they want to eat? What time do they want to eat? And
Hmm.
time doesn't necessarily mean lunch. It could be, the seasons, right? Because we're cooking with products that are based on, the different seasonality of things, right? So that data gives us the ability to write a menu. And
Hmm.
then in terms of the menu, again, it's about execution. How are we going to execute? How quickly do we need to execute? And what type of environment are we going to execute? And then we need to set up our cooks for success. So one thing that I firmly believe in is like, no matter how many people or no matter how few people, don't do anything if you can't execute it. Right.
Mm,
But you also, on the flip side, and this is where, you can contradict yourself, is you need to push the boundaries to give them that like lasting impression and that great experience. That's a little bit different. Right. So once you have the menu, and you feel like you're now in the position to begin to execute, that's when you start to produce. And Mise Plus, throughout this entire process, from menu planning to now production, is how many things do you need to buy? And out of all the different products that you need to buy, when do you need to get them in to begin preparing for them? And how are you going to prepare for them?
mhm,
Right. And you can't have too many ingredients, can't have too little.
mhm,
So each ingredient would need like instructions
mhm,
and technique on how to prepare each ingredient. And then
mhm,
once all of your ingredients are prepared, how are you then going to assemble them and put them together to actually make the food?
mhm,
Food is made. How are you going to present the food?
mhm,
And what's a little bit different from a restaurant in the corporate environment is presenting the food in the restaurant. You put up the plate, you put up the window, it gets to the customer, you're done. On to the
mhm,
next customer.
mhm,
Corporate environment, if you've got like 20, 50, 100, 1,000 people coming in, you're going to have to change your presentation plans so that you can ensure whether it's a buffet or it's plated or the different types of models, you've got like eyes and attention on the presentation throughout like the entire meal service because a lot can change,
mhm,
right? When you put out food at 12 o'clock, it can't stay there, half hour. So it's got to be replenished. It's got to be represented so that no matter what time of the day you come in during that meal period, it looks attractive,
mhm,
it looks nice, and people
mhm.
feel we want to make people feel like they're being cared for.
I was also in operations for a little bit myself, and I was really young, so that kind of adds to my lack of experience when it comes to mise en place. It was a mess. So I was a barista. Whenever I'm at the bar, the screen is all red because they're all late. So I really think it's an art form to be able to practice mise en place. It's almost like having your plan laid out in your head. Well, this may apply more to the restaurant side of things because I guess in the corporate environment you have to have more of the strategy laid down and you have to communicate to your team, right? How the typical day is like for you.
Oh God, we're in a hyper growth phase,
Mm-hmm.
and every week it's a little different,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to be super nimble and really flexible,
Mm-hmm.
just given the fast pace here at OpenAI. But mise en place, like it can apply to. I can't think of a job where mise en place cannot play either a significant importance to someone's role or literally everything in their role. Um, so for me, like it starts with my calendar. Like, what meetings do I have? What decisions do I need to make? What meetings do I need to be prepared to make a decision? At the end of the day, like I just need to make really good decisions or realize,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, make the decision. But my job consists of strategy, operations, and management as we scale the food program like globally and at a very fast pace.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different components. There's the contract management side, there's the financial side, there's design
Mm-hmm.
and construction side where we're opening offices all over the world. We got to make sure we have the right design and the right food model, the right contract and the right budget and the right scope in place. And then there's the operational side, which once we're open or as we are open, right? Um, is everything going smoothly and are people being cared for? And are we addressing things that is never ending?
Mm-hmm. So out of your many years of experience, tell me what has been the worst you've seen. Either that there's no mise en place, that would be the end one end of the spectrum, or just people don't understand it, or maybe one or a small number of people are not doing their part right, or not following, or just not embracing how the team can work together. Anything like that?
all the time. And
All the time.
yeah, in different shapes or form. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
mistakes happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the restaurant business, it could be a miscommunication between the front of the house and the back of the house in our earlier days, right? And someone orders something, and the server didn't know that the steak or the chicken's no longer available, right? So then you got to scramble. You can't go back to the customer and say, sorry, that's actually unavailable. You got to kind of scramble to prep more mise en place that you ran out of.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say the worst, I like in my experience, I think the worst feeling is when you need to do something very quickly to make
Mm-hmm.
your customer happy and you're not prepared,
Mm.
right? Run out of the things to be able to execute.
Yeah.
Um, I think now it's a little bit different. It's maybe a detail was missed,
A
or
detail is missed. Okay.
yeah, a detail is missed, or you mentioned you were a project manager.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so like we believe that a project plan is everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
The project is not going to be successful if you don't have the right plan.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe something was missed, and then you're scrambling at the last minute, or
Mm-hmm.
something happens after you complete your project. That's unfortunate, right? And then you kind of got to go back and look at your mise en place, and have a post mortem, and what could we have done better next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here are misses, where were your misses? How can we come together and ensure that the next project is more successful based on the lessons learned? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit different now. But it all comes down to, again, like mise en place and having everything in place to be successful.
Yeah, it's very similar to managing projects, communication. Well, you have to have the plan. So people should know who needs to do what at about what time. And then they need to be equipped with what they need to do. So similar to you have the ingredients prepped, like you have your vinaigrette, you have your cut vegetables. So that person can execute on what they're supposed to do. And communication. So often, very often, project managers or anyone on the team, they may hear something from the client, and that got to be not just distributed to the team, but this is what's happening. We need to do X, Y, Z so that we can bring things back on track. Oftentimes, like I've seen so many people, they just pass messages. So, oh, the client want this tomorrow instead. Okay, what does it mean? How much impact is that? Do we have enough people, or are we gonna be able to deliver this tomorrow? And if not, what are the options? So very similar, and it's a lot about communication, and everyone just needs to be aligned on what they need to do when and be ready. A lot of the times it's like, okay, we need the developer to finish building this web page. Well, the design's not done. So it's like you don't have to cut vegetables yet. You can't make the salad.
Exactly.
How does mise en place influence you in your personal life?
That's a great question, because we're at this time where my kids are changing fast, right? Uh,
How old are they? Are they a
my
teenager?
Yeah, so my son is 12 and my
Mm-hmm.
daughter's 9.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we are just going through a lot, and they require a lot of our attention, and they need us to be able to like live a good life in the city of San Francisco. And what that means is last weekend I was getting my son for track, right? Because he's
Mm-hmm.
now on the track team, right? And my daughter has contemporary and ballet. So um I unconsciously am thinking about mise en place all the time. Like, are my kids getting good grades? Is my partner and I, are we getting them to school and picking them up to school? We communicate through Apple Watches. Are they reminding them that their Apple Watches need to be charged?
Wow.
Basketball shoes are different than track shoes. So
Uh-huh.
do they have everything that they need to live a good life? So Mise Plus is everywhere and everything, no matter what scenario.
Is your family aware of A, the concept, or B, they don't know the concept necessarily, but they know dad is practicing it?
Yes and no. Do they know of Mise Plus? Probably not, but my son cooks and
Oh, that's cool.
he makes his eggs and he's practicing omelets now. He can
Mm.
flip eggs, but he's really into cutting chives.
Oh,
So,
that is like advanced level cutting there.
like father, like son, right?
Hmm.
He slices his own chives. He puts them in a little deli cup, and he wraps them in a moist paper towel so that they stay fresh. And he puts them in the fridge, and when we go to the store, he'll get a couple bunches of chives because one's not enough, right? But he'll cut them all at once, and he'll store them in the refrigerator all at once. And
Hmm.
throughout the week, if I'm running to work and he's making himself eggs, right? Um, he's got the chives and the mise en place. He's got the chives ready to go in the refrigerator. So his mise en place is done. So does he know mise en place? Probably not, but he's already doing it.
Uh-huh. That's great because I don't think attention to details hurt anyone really, unless you're fixated on details and lose sight on the big picture. But having everything be ready when they're ready in the right form. So, like you said, he put a little moist paper towel to cover them so they're not dry.
I think everyone can be taught and everyone can learn. Um, you can teach the importance of detail. You can uh, teach people how to be more detailed and execute. But no, not everyone is born with it. Not
Mm,
everyone is born
yeah.
with hands, right?
Hmm.
And handling food. But I do believe that um, if you treat them and you teach them in a way that they're able to understand and that they can connect with you, I do believe that most things in the kitchen are teachable.
Hmm. Is there an aspect of mise en place that implies like working cleanly? Because I think I read when I was reading the book about how to apply mise en place in your professional setting, I think that was introduced. Is that what you understand?
One of the things that I really believe in is like having a clean floor.
Mm.
And if your floor, things are gonna fall on the floor. It's inevitable, right? Um, but making sure you clean them up right away. And if something happens and folks get derailed, like no matter what, just stopping what you're doing and everyone just pick up the floor mats and sweep the floor. And what that really means is it's actually like psychological, right? Where how can you touch your mise en place and handle your mise en place right in front of you with love and care and cook something perfectly if you're standing on something that shouldn't be on the floor, right? So, yes, sauce can get messy if you're doing things really fast. And when things get messy, your mise en place, I mean, mise en place means things in place, right? And if you've got your hands into things, very frequently for a short amount of time, things then can get out of place. So
Mm.
it's a reason, right? Cleaning the floor, cleaning your station, re-looking at your mise en place to get everything back in place.
And it enables the team to, it can definitely hurt the team if you put like a hot pan somewhere that they don't belong. People
Yeah.
might have grabbed on that and burned their hands.
Well, and even nowadays, right? Like the really good project managers have multiple projects,
Hmm.
not just manage just one project, right? Or maybe you're a really good program manager and soon you're managing like multiple programs in the corporate environment, right? So at the end of the day, like maybe you need to come back and take a look at, all right, I don't have one project, I got 6 projects. How are they all doing? Which ones are we at risk? Which ones do I need to not worry about because they're right on schedule and right on budget? That's resetting, right?
Mm.
That's not very different than taking a look at your mise en place and like cleaning the floor.
Hmm.
It's looking at like your workload and making sure it's organized and that you're
Hmm.
up to date with everything.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me when like creative people may not think they're or like creative people associate with no structure, not organized. But then there's mise en place even for creative people. For example, if they name their artwork files a certain way, they put them in the right folders, then whoever needs to work together on the project, they know where to find things. They know what each thing is without opening it. So it's kind of similar to that.
Truthfully, it's there's not billions of amazing chefs out in the world, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
incredible chefs, right? But there's not billions of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you hit it on the head where to be an excellent chef, like, yeah, you need like the creative piece, but you also need the organization and the structure piece so that
Mm-hmm.
you can execute properly. If you look at all like the 3 Michelin stars or whether 3 Michelin star or no stars, like the great restaurants have owners and a team that's passionate and that's creative and that's a little bit different, but they're also super organized.
So it's like you need to use your right brain and your left brain at the same time. So of course there aren't billions of you. Last question. Do you do the cooking at home?
I do. I wish my wife would cook more because she's such a good cook.
Okay.
She, she makes incredible food.
Uh-huh.
She gets it from her mom. Um, but I do the cooking every weekend. I do a lot of gardening, and that's my creative outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Development.
Mm-hmm.
So I built this beautiful garden. I consistently cook, probably 2 to 3 days a week. Currently, just with how busy our lives are and our jobs, um, I'm not cooking on the week because I cook on the weekend for the week. So I actually get my refrigerator like completely set up, like filled with mise en place. So as an example, I made a big batch of chicken soup, right? And that gets us through a couple days. Or I'll pre-roast a chicken, buy 5 pound chicken, the biggest chicken I can find here in the States, and roast it, and that gets us through the next couple days. So I set things up on the weekends to take some pressure off my wife, and then to make sure the kids can just like reheat something or go in the refrigerator and grab something throughout the week.
Well, thank you very much. Mise en place is something that not that many people understand, but it helps people in so many different ways. I wish more people understand that and like can get their things in place. So, and I think there's an aspect of not having to think too much when you're executing. Because if you have things set up, you're not really going to a million places just so you can do your part. Spencer, thank you so much for joining me today on MindBlend.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of MindBlend. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to follow and share it with anyone who needs to hear it. And let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on LinkedIn or leave me a comment. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and let's continue to blend our minds and discover what's possible.